Yo, I got a new gun and card cache build in Borderlands 4 using Cache's new class mod, the Prestidigitator. Now, there's a very interesting mechanic that lets you actually control what cards you throw out using the class mod to some extent. So I explain in this video how to do that, and I show you kind of the build that lets you get off some pretty big damage. But that lets you choose the cards that you want to throw, which then lets you throw out more cooler cards, letting you proc Groundbreaker, and the build just feels really, really good overall. It's a nice and use kind of any gun type of cache build. Anyway, that's about it. Let's get right into the breakdown. Alright, gun and card cache build. Now this build is based on the new cache class mod, the Prestidigitator. That's my best attempt at pronouncing it, and I'm not sure if anyone really knows how. But how this class mod works, basically when Windfall is not active and you critically hit an enemy, you gain stacks. And when Windfall is active and you critical hit an enemy, you consume those stacks to throw out cards from your deck. This class mod has an interesting interaction where you do have some control over what cards you throw out, and I will explain that after the breakdown. I'll have a timestamp right like here to where you can find my explanation of that. But that is actually a really important part of this build and something that can make or break the build. It can make it feel either amazing or really terrible if you don't understand this concept. So definitely go and watch that part of the video. It's probably the most important part of this video. But before that, I'm going to get into the skill breakdown. We'll start with the blue tree. So we're going to start with 1 point in alchemy. Of course, every cache build pretty much has to have this. When you apply an elemental effect, you gain a stack of fortune. This is going to be our main way of stacking fortune stacks, as a lot of this build is based on elemental damage. Next, we're going to throw 5 points into fast hands. The reason why is because we want more control over when we enter Windfall, and this gives us a greater chance of entering Windfall each time we attempt to. So this is really, really important, and I will also, because this build is kind of complicated and a little confusing, have a section explaining exactly how to optimize when you want to enter Windfall after the skill breakdown as well. Fuck it, another timestamp, I'll throw it right there. So you can watch that part too, and that'll kind of explain when you want to enter Windfall and why you want to enter Windfall at certain times, okay? Next, we're going to throw 5 points into Sounds of Rain, giving us crit chance on our action skills and our guns. This crit chance will actually apply to the cards that you throw out, so that is very, very nice. And then we're going to throw 3 points into Trick Taker. Like I said, a lot of our damage is elemental damage, and we're going to get more elemental damage from this. And 1 point into Devil's Tines. We do want an extra augment slot, and that will be clear why, again, later in the video. All right? Next, we're throwing 5 points into Take the Pot. You can throw them into High Roller, but honestly, we're not speccing that much into gun damage for this build. Even though we are doing a lot of damage with our guns, it's actually going to be coming more so from skill damage. So we're going to go Take the Pot because it basically will make us a lot tankier. It gives us, whenever you activate an action skill, it restores a portion of your health and gives you shields or over shields depending on what you need. So this is really, really strong for survivability. It helps you stay pretty much at full health and full overshield at all times, which is really nice. And then this is a big core of the build. It's Vigorish. We're going, whenever you deal damage with an action skill, which again, this includes you throwing out your cards via the class mod, then you will deal bonus elemental damage of the type of the action skill that you threw out. So if you throw out a fire card, it'll be a fire damage, etc. This is really, really important, and this applies to your guns. This will be a lot of our damage, and again, it is elemental damage, so it's benefiting from Trick Taker down here. Then we're going to go Dealer's Bluff. This will just let us spam out some dice. Basically, whenever you gain a stack of fortune, you restore some of your action skill cooldown. And this is quite a bit of action skill cooldown restore, so you get to throw out a lot more dice that way, and that lets you take advantage of this skill. You gain increased skill damage for every active bone totem. So the more bone totems you throw out, the more skill damage you get, which is why it synergizes really, really well with Dealer's Bluff, so that you can throw out a bunch and have a lot of skill damage active at a time. Next, we're going O Fortuna. The reason why, you get elemental effect chance, which is great for stacking fortune stacks, more elemental effect damage, because that's a lot of the damage that we're dealing, and then you also get increased Windfall chance per your fortune stack. So it lets you control when you enter Windfall a lot more, which is very, very convenient, very key, so that you have control over when you enter Windfall, because that is how you maximize the damage from this class mod and from this build, okay? Then we're going to throw 1 point into Devil's Tines to gain an additional augment slot. 3 points in a Red Moon Rising for some extra fire damage when you're in Windfall on your guns and your action skills. Very nice. And then we're going to throw 1 point in a Bone Meal ticket just for a little bit more totem duration sustain. So whenever you get kills, it will heal up your totems a little bit and let them stay out longer, which is really, really nice. You can throw more into this, like you can take the points out of Red Moon Rising if you want to be spec'd more into the totems, but I like having the Red Moon Rising. I just throw 1 point in here so that every time we get a kill, we get a little something from it, you know? Next, we're going to throw 1 point into Accursed Bones. Whenever Cash deals action skill damage to an enemy, that enemy becomes jinxed, and they take extra damage and they deal less damage. So this is 1 point, essentially. The action skill damage does count from your class mod throwing out cards, so that is very nice. It also gives you lifesteal, which is very nice, but it's really just for that extra 30% damage dealt to the enemy. That's a lot of damage for 1 point, so we're going to be using that. Next, we're going to go Turn of Fate. Whenever Windfall is active, you gain a fuck ton of lifesteal, and if you don't get lifesteal, you get Overshield Steal, and that will synergize very, very well with Fortune's Favor, whenever you get increased gun and skill damage based on how much health and overshield you have. So obviously these two skills will pair together very nicely, and that is also getting helped by Take the Pot. When we're spamming all of our dice from having so much action skill cooldown restore, we're healing a lot from Take the Pot, so it lets us stay full health pretty much all the time. This build is quite good at surviving. You have quite good survivability because of all of this synergy. And then the other 2 points we're going to throw into High Stakes. Now you might be wondering, why don't we go Can't Stop Winning? The problem with Can't Stop Winning is it'll make you enter Windfall when you don't want to. You can't have a point in this skill to make this build work, because it will take away your control of entering Windfall, and we really, really want as much control of that as possible, because we don't want to enter Windfall all the time. And the reason for that is because we need to build stacks of Prestidigitator by hit critting enemies when Windfall isn't active. So if you do enter Windfall every time you crit, or you have a chance to, it becomes impossible to manage when you enter Windfall. So big no-no skill. We really don't want any points into that. And then the last skill we're going into is the Wilds. While in Windfall, you deal a random bonus element damage on top of your damage. So again, more elemental damage, which is a lot of this build. It's just all different types of elements, all dealing a lot of damage. And then as for the action skill, we're going to be going the dice, Clarimancy. And the dice we want are Heavenly Sevens, Dirty Dozen, and Three's Company. This gives your totem some more duration, which is very nice, but more importantly, it's giving you fire rate and reload speed, 2 stats that are very, very convenient to have on this build. Dirty Dozen will actually throw out cards from your deck as well, so not only is your class mod throwing out cards for you, but now you have a dice that can throw out cards as well, which is very nice. And then Three's Company is giving you action skill damage, and again, that action skill damage will affect the cards that you throw out via your class mod. So all of this synergizes for your damage to actually be coming from your skills and from throwing out cards via the class mod. But your guns are the method that you use to be able to do those things. Anyway, running into items and gear for weapons, you can kind of go whatever you want. I have been obviously really liking the new pearls. I've been playing around with them. I really like the Gomi and the Gatling, the jailbroken Gatling. Is it always jailbroken Gatling? Yeah, the jailbroken Gatling. I really like the jailbroken Gatling. Lots of fire rate. It feels really, really good. It gives you lots of opportunities to crit because it's such a high fire rate weapon, which lets you build up your Prestidigitator stacks very quickly and get a lot of Prestidigitator stacks so you can throw out as many cards as possible. So I really like that weapon, but this is kind of a use any weapon kind of build. You want either high firing weapons or things that give you lots of instances of damage. So it gives you lots of chances to crit and lots of chances to stack up your Prestidigitator stacks. Now we'll talk about the gear. The class mod is obviously the Prestidigitator. Now, what do you want to look for on this class mod? So you have all 4 of these skills that you can spec into. The one that you really, really want is Bloodstained Moon. And the reason why is because it gives you a lot of damage. So whenever you crit an enemy, you get increased elemental effect chance, elemental effect damage, and elemental damage. So it's just a lot more damage. And then a fortune skill as well. When you crit an enemy, or when you kill an enemy with a crit, it lobs these mortars out. You're not really going for that. You're going for the elemental effect damage and the elemental whatever, because this stacks up to 25 times. So the elemental effect damage is 125% at max stacks and 100% elemental damage. It increases your damage a lot. So when you're looking for a class mod, you're looking for one with this. And ideally, you're also looking for one with skill damage, maybe skill crit chance. Those are the best that I've found. I have a few here that I've tried. Like I tried one with damage dealt. That one felt pretty good. I tried one with crit damage. I tried one with just SMG damage. This one wasn't as good as the skill damage stuff. So definitely recommend going skill damage here. And then one with action skill damage. I tried this as well. I actually like the skill damage one more because that applies not only to your throwing out of your cards, which the action skill damage would apply for, but it also applies to things like your Sweet in the Pot or your Vigorish. This damage is skill damage. Or your, what is this one called? Or the Wilds. All of this is skill damage, and all of these benefit from skill damage. So I think your best class mod is going to look something like this. Either, skill damage on it. You want 1 point into Bloodstained Moon. And then the best out of these, all of these just give you crit chance. But the best one is Tender Hearts. And then the second best one is Tormented. So your Huckleberry is the one that gives you the least amount of crit damage. So we're not super, super interested in that one. If I had a perfect roll, it would look like 1 point in Bloodstained Moon, 5 into Tender Hearts, and 1 into Tormented. With skill damage or skill crit chance. That's what you're looking for. This is a pretty good roll. I'm very happy with this one. So it should look something like that. Next, for the rep kit, you can go whatever you want. I'm going a shiny Warpaint. I have Enrage on it. Another one that would be really, really good is one with Elemental Affinity. Obviously, we're doing a lot of elemental damage, so Elemental Affinity is going to be really good. But Enrage is obviously also very good. Nothing to scoff at. For Ordnance, you can go again, whatever you want. You can throw out grenades if you want and just be spamming out grenades. I like the Heimdall because it actually applies all of the things to your gun damage. So it applies the Wilds, it applies the damage from Vigorish, and all the bonus elemental damage applies on the shots from the Heimdall, as well as the Sweet in the Pot. So it's really good for that, as well as it shoots out a lot of times, and it'll be critting while you're just moving around, right? It's kind of like an AFK thing. You shoot it out, and it'll be spamming shots and critting, so it helps you stack up that Prestidigitator. Honestly, my biggest complaint with it is having time to actually pull it out and shoot it, because you're so busy just shooting your gun, dealing damage with your cards, or doing things like that. The shield we're going, of course, we're going to Watts for Dinner. No one's surprised. I got a pretty good one here. It's got Turtle and Siphon. I'm pretty happy with that, but obviously Amp Siphon's great. Siphon is just great in general for the shield restore. And then the enhancement is really based on the weapons you want to use. I have one for Daedalus because I'm using the Jailbroken Gatling a lot, which has Daedalus parts, so it benefits from that. It's also giving me SMG accuracy, which you'd be surprised is super helpful because with the fire rate that this thing can get with this build, I need some help controlling that kick because the kick can be pretty wild when you have your fire rate totem active, the Heavenly Sevens one. As for firmware, we're going to be going 3 into Skillcraft. The other 2, probably best would be like High Caliber, maybe Action Fist. Doesn't really matter. This isn't a min-max build. 3 into Skillcraft is the most important. Beyond that, you can go whatever you want. Not really important. And then for specialization, this one's actually pretty important. You're going to want Groundbreaker. You need Groundbreaker. And the reason why is because among the cards you will be throwing out this card, the Cooler. And this card does melee damage and applies Groundbreaker. This is where a lot of your damage is going to be coming from. This card here. Just because it applies Groundbreaker. And that's pretty much it. Very, very strong specialization. Necessary for this build. Like, this interaction is where most of your damage is coming from. Next, I've been kind of at a loss. We're not really that spec'd into gun damage, so we're not getting that much benefit from I Am a Gun. A Hone Mine is also a very good one. I would say that a Hone Mine and Groundbreaker are core. These are the 2 you definitely want. The other 2, you can kind of go whatever you want. I threw one into Bullet Train, so now we can hip fire and sprint around. That's a nice quality of life thing. Getting the best defense would be very good. I'm on my way to speccing towards that now. Riddle You This would be good for the 50% gun damage, but we're not getting that much from I Am a Gun because we're not specced into that much gun damage. So This is not the best skill that I would go. The two you definitely want and need for this build are a Hone Mine and Groundbreaker. The other two, you can kind of go whatever you want. I would recommend the best defense and maybe Riddle You This, or the best defense and Bullet Train. Both of those I think are fine. I think Compounding Afflictions would be very nice because we're doing so much elemental damage that we're applying a lot of status effects. So Compounding Afflictions could also be very nice. Or Contamination for that matter. Again, go whatever you feel is best and whatever you can afford. Obviously, I don't have that many specialization points here, but a Hone Mine and Groundbreaker are the two that I would say are a must. Alrighty, and that's the build. So like I said, I would explain how you can have control over what cards you throw out via your class mod. And how you do that is by selecting the blue action skill and selecting the cards you want to pick. So when I have these cards selected, and even if I'm equipped with the green action skill, just because I have them selected in my blue action skill, you'll see that when I use my Prestidigitator and I enter Windfall here, I'm going to probably enter Windfall like that. Now the cards that I throw out are going to be based on the ones that I have selected. So it actually gives me a better chance to throw out the cards that I want to throw out, which specifically are these three cards. I want the Cooler because it procs Groundbreaker. I want Cowboy because it's just an amazing card that does a lot of damage. And I want Sweeten the Pot because it gives us more elemental damage on our gunshots. So really, really, really strong. And the cards that will be thrown out are going to be either the Fireball or the Magic Missile from the original two that you can't really control or get rid of, or one of these three cards. So it gives us better chances to throw out cards that we want. Now, when you restart your game, this happened to me. I restarted my game and I noticed that I was actually throwing out any of the cards. I was throwing out cards at random out of all of them. And when that happens, your damage will be significantly less. I noticed that I wasn't proccing Groundbreaker. And you should be when you're shooting enemies and you're throwing cards. So I'm going to throw some cards again here. Once I enter Windfall. You should notice that the enemy should have this this ice haze over them. And that means that you're throwing out cooler cards. If you're not consistently throwing out the cooler cards, then you're probably throwing out cards based on your entire deck, not from your selected cards, okay? And that's really, really, really important because there's a lot of cards in here that are kind of mid that you don't want. Like you don't want Thunder the Table, you don't want Furious Fingers, you don't want Dead Man's Hand. This one's probably okay, but it's not as good as the other ones that we're interested in. So you don't really want to be throwing out any of the cards from the total deck. You want to have control over which ones you do. And how you do that is you're going to come over here, select your cards, and if you notice that you're throwing out cards from your entire deck, what you might have to do is you might have to actually enter Windfall with the blue action skill selected, like this, okay? With the blue action skill selected, you'll have to enter Windfall. And then you can go ahead and swap your action skill back over to the green. And now it will be, you will be throwing cards just from this selection of cards here, okay? That is super, super important. Now, I don't think I have a clip because I didn't record it. I was honestly embarrassed about the damage. But I came back to the game after, getting off. And I came back to the game, I loaded up, and I noticed my damage was significantly lower. And I noticed that I was throwing out cards like Furious Fingers, and I could see them coming out. And that is how I swapped it to fix it, to make it so I was doing it out of this selection here. So that is super, super important. You want to make sure that the cards you're throwing out are, ideally, they're one of these three. But of course, you can't get rid of the other two that you can possibly throw out, the Fireball or the Magic Missile card. Okay, I actually just tested it. I restarted my game, and you have to do it every time. So every single time you restart the game, you have to go over to your blue action skill. You want to proc Windfall. How can I have no fucking fortune. Okay, you want to proc Windfall, and then you want to, you can back out of it as soon as that and then swap your action skill back over. And now your card pool will be the card pool that you have selected. So it's going to be these 3 cards plus the original 2. You have to do that every time you restart the game. Otherwise, your damage will be significantly lower. You will notice that you will not be throwing out nearly as many cooler cards, and you won't be proccing Groundbreaker nearly as much. So your damage will be way, way lower. So each time you restart the game, you have to do this. I don't know why you have to do this, but it does give you control over what cards you throw out using the class mod. And that is really, 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 really important for a lot of your damage. So I would do that every time you start the game, and trust me, you will notice such a huge difference. So if you do try this build out, please make sure that you do that. I said do. All right, back to the video. So now that that's explained, I'm going to explain what you want to do for your control of Windfall, okay? So because we are spec'd 5 points into Fast Hands and 5 points into O Fortuna, this gives us an extra 2% Windfall chance per stack and an extra 1.5% here. So that puts our total Windfall chance per fortune stack at 6.5%, which means at 10 stacks, which will pretty much be at all the time thanks to alchemy and all the elemental damage that we're dealing, it will put our chance to enter Windfall for every attempt at 65%. So basically 1 in every 2, you can think of it. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're stacking your Prestidigitator stacks, which means you have to not be in Windfall to stack the stacks, okay? So I don't want to go into Windfall when I first start hitting the enemy. I want to spam the enemy, and you'll see in the bottom left that I have 10 class mod stacks, and those are my Prestidigitator stacks. So then when I enter Windfall, it gives me the cards to throw. If I don't have the Prestidigitator stacks, then I don't throw out cards when I enter Windfall. So it's really important to build the stacks first, build up the stacks by shooting enemies and critting, and then you can enter Windfall, and now I'll start actually throwing them out. And you'll throw out a lot more that way. That is how you want to maximize the amount of cards that you throw out, by controlling your Windfall well. So you don't want to be in Windfall at the start of the fight. You want to shoot and build the stacks, and then you want to enter Windfall, and that's where your damage is going to come from, because you will have the stacks to start throwing out more cards. And that's everything I got for you today. I love this build. I didn't make a cash build before this update came out because I couldn't figure out or think of any builds that I thought was creative or unique or fun or different enough from what I saw other people doing. But this class mod was a lot of fun to build with. I had a great time doing it. It's a lot of fun to play. It's like a good, diverse build that you can kind of use a lot of weapons with. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. I hope you guys enjoy. If you did like the video, I'd really appreciate it if you left me a like. And if you'd want to subscribe, I'd give you a fat kiss. And yeah, that's all. I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.